Welcome to the Golfin' Around Radio Hour. I'm your host, the madman with a club in his hand, the madman hacker that shoots 131 and is happy with it for the day. That's what I play. That's how I play golf. I'm there for the entertainment value of it. My buddy Fred, who's on the line, certainly knows that. Fred has golfed with me in Scotland and Ireland, and he knows I'm a hacker. But Freddie, you when we were over in Ireland, you played with me, gave me a golf tip, and I played the best round of my life. So you earn a pack of Oreo cookies for that.
Well, we've done that a couple times. You play good for a few holes, and then you slip back your old ways. That's the idea of the amateur golfer. They always go back. They keep tinkering and trying other stuff instead of just doing the stuff that works. Man, how you doing, Randy?
I'm good. Other than my attention deficit order, a butterfly flies by the tee box. I'm like, look, a butterfly, a squirrel.
Squirrel. Yeah.
That might have something to do with it. You know, Fred's with the Back Nine Report, the Back Nine Report. Check him out on YouTube. Fred, where else can folks find you at the Back Nine Report?
Well, we are American, Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana golf journals as well. So if you just go to like AmericanGolfJournal.com or MichiganGolfJournal.com, read our content. We have a great list of writers that contribute informative articles to the magazines, from travel to instruction to equipment reviews to editorial opinions. We kind of do it all, Randy.
I love it. I love it. All right. There's a little golf tournament happening. The last time we talked, Fred, it was the PGA Championship. How quickly time has flown, and the U.S. Open is upon us. It is upon us. And, you know, New York City's got a reputation of being mean, nasty, filthy, the people up there. And just down the road, the same adjectives apply to a little golf course out there they're out on Long Island at Shinnecock Hills, aren't they?
Yes, they're farther out. There's a whole bunch of great golf courses right around there. You know, Fishers and National and Sabonic and Shinnecock, and they're all right there together out in the Hamptons. Randy, and to give a nod to the New York fans, I mean, they were terrible at the Ryder Cup. They were absolutely terrible.
They're New Yorkers. That's what you should expect.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a little different. This is the U.S. Open. I don't think it'll be like that. Besides that, Shinnecock will not put up with that kind of stuff, and I don't think USGA will either. People will be escorted out if they're unruly.
Well, can we take a second and talk about that, Fred?
Yeah.
It's gotten worse and worse. I've penned a couple stories in the last 10 years in the Golfin' Around magazine that is companion to our TV show and our radio show. I'm tired of it. These idiots screaming absolute nonsense. An incident that went kind of unwritten and talked about was Zach Johnson in the Open Championship at St. Andrews. I want to say 6-7 years ago, whatever it was. And it was on the 18th hole. And some idiot screamed just before he was about in his back shot. And you don't expect that of the British people, right, the UK people, as an American. But I can't even watch a tournament anymore. And I turn it off this first second somebody goes, fish in a barrel. What the hell does that even mean?
So, Randy, that's been going on for a long time. I go back to the 70s, and you had the guy with the colorful hair and the rainbow shirt, and he had something about, a Bible verse, John 3:16 or whatever. And then you had people yelling mashed potatoes, or you the man, or, whatever. So it's been going on for a long time. It's just not happening now, although the Ryder Cup last year at Bethpage Black kind of took it to a new level. So it's not unusual. And another thing, Randy, now this is the USGA. This is different than the PGA that runs the Ryder Cup, and different than the PGA Tour. But the PGA Tour has been bringing some of that stuff upon themselves, just like the big deal at the Waste Management out in Phoenix, out in Scottsdale. The 16th hole, that par 3, where people just sit there and drink all day, and they're completely toast by the afternoon, and they're throwing stuff out there. And the players say they embrace it. I think they quietly hate it. And then I just was watching the Canadian Open, and they do a thing up there called the rink on that one little short par three, and they just yell and scream and chant and all kinds of stuff. And so the PGA Tour kind of brings some of this stuff onto their own. Now you don't see it at the Masters because there's over 1,200 security people are walking around there, and somebody gets out of line there, they're out of there in a heartbeat. People don't even know it. And I think the USGA will be doing the same thing. I don't think they'll put up with the kind of stuff the PGA put up with at the Ryder Cup.
Well, I can remember Mike Davis. He's a Western PA guy. He was head of the USGA, setting up the courses for years. And I forget what event it was, but some knucklehead jumped in front of the awards ceremony and
Oh,
being the
it was out in San Francisco when Jim Furyk won at Olympic Club. Yeah. The guy in the chicken suit.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Mike being a good old Pittsburgh boy, our reputation of being tough and old school is earned, man. And Mike just put his hands on him and tossed him with a look like, I'm going to take you into the alley and school you. Well, let's hope that the fans behave themselves this week. Fred and I love golf. I can be a little bit fun loving on a golf course, but I always love and respect the game. You know, Shinnecock has hosted 3 Opens in the past, 95, 04, and 18. Fred, the course was so difficult in 18, the players were losing it. Zach Johnson famously said after Saturday's round, the USGA has lost the golf course on the setup. Phil Mickelson, boy, is he in some hot water. Anyway, Phil Mickelson lost his mind. Remember, he took the rules infraction and the ball was still moving on a putt and he hit it back. This course drove them nuts in 18. So what does the USGA, what does Shinnecock do? They go, really? If you think you were upset in 18, wait till you see 2026's layout.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the aerials, you think, well, how could this golf course ever be difficult, right? But probably Shinnecock and a couple other courses in the United States are most resemble true links golf, like you would see in Scotland and Ireland. I mean, there's no trees out there. It's tall heather, tall fescue off the fairways. If you hit into it, you can't get out of it. But the real protection there are 2 things: the wind and the greens. The greens, the undulation and the roll and that kind of thing on those greens. I remember when Retief Goosen won in 2004. I mean, a 2-foot putt was not a gimme. I mean, a 2-foot putt might have 8 inches of break in it. So there's tremendous break on those greens, and they'll have them fast. They won't be able to put them at 14 probably, because if the wind blows, it'll blow them right off the greens. But they'll be pretty fast. They'll be fast enough, and as much elevation or as much undulation is there, they'll still be a tremendous challenge. So it's the wind and the greens at Shinnecock that really keep the scores down. And Randy, you're talking about history. I remember I have this in my head just like it's yesterday in 95 when Corey Pavin won that he had to hit a 4-wood into the 18th green. Okay. Because Corey was not the longest guy in the world. I mean, if he had 250, that was a pretty long drive for Corey. But he hit that 4-wood up there. I think it was about 220 yards, I think, all told, and hit it up there within about 8 feet to seal the deal. But it's a true tough golf course, and I want to go, and I keep banging on this drum. I know everybody is against me on this ball reverse or rollback thing. Just look at what we did at the PGA. There in Philadelphia, what the scoring was. They kept it down without, even with a longer ball and all this stuff. And I don't think we're going to see really low scores here at Shinnecock either, Randy.
Oh, no, the word on the street is, your winning score may be 18 over come
I don't think
Sunday.
it won't be that high, but it may be around par. I'll bet they'll get under par. It'll probably be 5 to 7 under
I'll
par.
bet you a soda pop. It's 15 or over, Cupcake.
I don't know. If that's it, the pros will be. You will never hear as much whining and crying as you will hear.
Fred, I think you're going to hear it this week. Not only did they do some tweaking to the greens, but they expanded some of the fairways. They've rolled them out so the balls will roll longer. they've increased the rough size. Now, I'm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania's home base for golfing around, and we have Oakmont that the rough has made guys like VJ Singh just scream and cry about the rough. They're letting the rough grow to 4.5 inches.
Yeah, that's pretty deep. Yeah.
I mean, it is fabulous deep. It's almost like they went and said, okay, if you thought 2018 was bad, wait till 2026.
The
You're
only
listening
problem
to
with
the
that,
Golfing Around Radio Hour.
the
Golfing
only
Around Radio Hour with Fred and Randy.
the only problem with that, Randy, is that the guys will get hurt. You mess up a shoulder, you mess up your wrist, you go down that deep grass, and it's just like it'll just stop the club immediately. And with the power, with the swing speed that those guys put in it, it could really affect them.
Fred, you'd think the USGA knows that.
Yeah, oh, they do, but they're so stuck in their, they're stuck in the 1950s, man. I really thought when Michael Wan took the job after Mike Davis, maybe he could loosen things up at the USGA a little bit, but no, those people are too entrenched in their little fiefdoms and stuff that I think he just goes along and does what he can do, and they're making a lot of money, so nobody worries about it. But if they ever got their act together, the USGA, and did it right, I mean, you want to see a difficult test for the players, right? You do want to see that. But what they do sometimes is just ridiculous. I go back to one year when Tiger was young and he was playing. He hit a ball in the middle of the green, okay? And he had too much backspin on it. And today you would play a dead-handed shot in there, and he didn't have it back then. But the ball spun back, and I think Greg Norman did this too at the same hole. The ball spun off the front of the green and into the water. It's just, that's ridiculous to have it like that. If you're going to have the green that fast and that tilted, at least put some tall grass along the bank where the ball will at least stop a little bit and give him a chip. But, I mean, it was a beautiful shot he hit, and he was rewarded with the ball in the water. And they do that all the time, the USGA. So, this is what they do. I don't know. They should get Kerry Haig, the guy that sets up the PGA Championship, to come in and do their USGA setups, because he knows what he's doing.
Wow.
He makes a difficult golf course, but a fair golf course.
Fair golf course. Built in 1891, Shinnecock Hills. Fred, you hearkened back to the links of great Scotland and Ireland. It's right there on the bay. And I've never played it. I'd love to hack around it and score 141. This is truly reminiscent of the great links courses of Scotland and Ireland. You look at the gentleman who built it, especially the second redesign with Charles McDonald coming over, and he literally replicates some of the holes, like on beautiful North Berwick, which I played last year, and a few of the other holes that are truly taken from Scotland itself. Fred, you look at this links design of a golf course right up against the bay. I'm truly, truly amazed at the traps. These are not your typical traps that are maybe 10 feet wide by 10 feet. These things are massive.
Yeah, well, and that's what, I mean, they can get out of bunkers for most of the time. I mean, the only time it's a problem is if the lip's too high, they can't hit a long enough iron to get to the green. So they may have to just lay up but chip on. But that's the way you play a US Open anyhow. You just try to not make double bogeys, okay? If you can just make pars, you're gaining on the field. You're ahead of the field. And take the occasional birdie and just take your pars and move on. So yeah, and then I want to give a shout out too. So you mentioned CB Macdonald, and the first U.S. Open was played in Rhode Island, but then the second one was played here at Shinnecock in 1896. And and then William Flynn, who we know is just fantastic designer, just built some great classic old golf course on the East. And he did the redesign in 1930s. And so he did a wonderful job there. And these people, the members at Shinnecock, truly revere their history and their place in the legacy of golf. They're one of the first five clubs that formed the USGA. And so these guys have a long history there, a lot of money there in the Hamptons, and they take pride in their course and keep it up and maintain the history of the game there.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. Talking back, Fred, to the green complexes and the bunkering around it, we talked about it's going to roll on the stimp at 13, maybe even 14. Correct me if I'm wrong. 15 is the highest on stimp, right?
I'm not sure about that, but I know 13 and 14 are pretty fast because I played
They're
several courses that
moving,
I've played
and
some courses that are that. And if the wind blows at all, it'll blow the ball right off the green. They'll
there's
have to
no doubt
stop that.
about it. The Oakmont greens, the members there take pride in that they roll at 13, 14 all the time.
Hmm.
And you look at the bunkering again around those greens. And again, we know, if you're a PGA player or tour player, you've got the sand trap game down as opposed to the normal amateur. But with the speed of those greens, the doming of those greens, the difficulty of the pin placement, I mean, those greens, I mean, the bunkers, green bunker complexes are going to see a lot of play this week.
Oh, for sure. And then if the wind blows a little bit, it'll even knock more of them in there. In there. So, yeah, the guys don't want to be on their sand games, and every U.S. Open, you have to have one of the better short games. And that's why maybe Scotty Scheffler, maybe if he's got his iron game has not been that good the last couple of weeks. And if he's got his iron game halfway decent, chipping and putting are going to become the big issue, chipping especially, because you're not going to hit. I mean, in 18 holes, if you hit 12, 13 greens, that's going to be pretty good probably. So you're chipping five or six times every round. So it becomes very, very important. And throw some of those in there. You might be hitting out of bunkers. So those short game skills are going to be very, very important in this U.S. Open, which they always are. And so that's why a lot of times a U.S. Open, someone will win it that comes from out of the pack that maybe is a little better iron player than the other guys, because that's what it takes. You've got to hit the ball in the fairways and keep it out of the tall stuff so you can have a shot to the green. And then the next thing is you've got to be a really good iron player. And then the third thing is you've got to be a really good chipper around the greens to win a U.S. Open.
Well, I loved last year's finish. Of course, it was here in Pittsburgh, and it really went down to the last several holes.
Absolutely.
Um, it was a great U.S. Open, and it's the national championship, as I call it, at the U.S. Open this week at Shinnecock Hills. And Fred, you and I have played a lot of great golf courses in our lifetime, and I still get excited like a child on Christmas morning, thinking of playing a course like Shinnecock. It would be just wonderful to get on there and see what skill levels, especially with your teaching of me, Fred. Please, dear goodness, Randy, don't ever tell anybody I taught you to play golf.
Here, I'll show you this, but don't tell anybody I told you.
Yeah, don't, please. No, I did not teach you to play golf. Well, Fred, it is always a pleasure to have you on the Golfing Around Radio Hour. Your insight, your historical knowledge of the great game we love brings so much to golfing around. And well, Fred, enjoy your weekend, enjoy it, and we'll catch up with you down the fairway.
Thanks a lot, Randy. You too. Always a great chatting with you, buddy.
Oh, shut up. Hey, when we come back to the Golfing Around Radio Hour, we're going to do another preview of Shinnecock Hills. Then later on in the show, we'll be heading to the Emerald Isle to take a glance at one of the favorite courses over there at Mount Juliet. We'll be back to the Golfing Around Radio Hour.